The Riddle of the Earth, Chapter 11. Geikie's Continental Ice Sheet Theory. This was Geikie's pet theory and the one most generally accepted as the explanation of the drift. In effect, it is a hypothesis that the whole north and south regions of the world, extending some 50 to 55 degrees from the poles, were covered with enormous continuous sheets of ice from 1 mile thick at its southern margin to 3 or 5 miles thick at the poles. No attempt has been made to account for the enormous quantity of water accumulated within the latitude of the poles, thus congealed into a vast ice field or belt embracing more than half the entire world. Nor does such a quantity of ice account for chalky boulder clay or the till or the boulder clay. It does not even explain away the straighted stones. It is assumed by Geikie that the passage of this mighty ice sheet tore the stones and soil as it moved south, but this does not explain why ice should manufacture the peculiar qualities of the till and boulder clay. Such action as Geikie presupposes would provide moraine materia, but it would not have manufactured the tough stony till or boulder clay. Rather, it would have disintegrated them. There's a footnote here. Professor Boyd Dawkins says no similar clays have been proved to have been so formed either in the Arctic regions where the ice sheet has retreated or in the districts forsaken by glaciers in the Alps or Pyrenees. Why too should such an ice sheet move south? Certain mountains in northern Asia and northern Canada and Greenland are covered with large ice sheets, but they do not move south. They stay where they belong. To account for this southern movement, another theory has to be invented, namely that northern Europe and America were elevated 1,500 feet above their present level, forming a huge plateau down which the ice sheet slid. Kroll, an authority on such questions, said that the facts of geology are fast establishing the opposite conclusion from the book Climate and Time. Observation of this aspect of ice fields has shown today that they do not move with a constant grinding movement towards the south, but rather break off like great icicles by their own weight, and they do not cause stration. The scratchings and groovings of the drift and its absence from stones in the vicinity of ice fields today is an important objection to the ice sheet theory. Geikie holds that the scratchings were caused by the weight of the superincumbent rocks, which tore up, ploughed up, ground and smashed the surface rocks. Had this been the explanation, the scratches would have been more evident when the ice sheet was pursuing its greatest momentum downhill southwards. But in point of fact, the striations are more numerous on the north side of mountains than on the south side. From Dana Manual of Geology. Here then we discover an ice sheet which rushes violently uphill and crawls down. Exclamation mark. You can definitely tell Beaumont was not an academic because you get points off for that. But anyway. The most unanswerable objection to the ice sheet theory is that there is no drift in Siberia or in northwest Canada. The ice sheet, which stretched from about Spitsbergen westward in the direction of the southwest, did not affect Siberia or Alaska and the Canadian Arctic zone again. Exclamation mark. Geikie attempted to meet this problem by assuming that the climate of Siberia and northwest Canada was too dry to furnish snow to manufacture the ice sheet. Donnelly remarks of this, the explanation is more extraordinary than the thing it explains. 1/3 of all the water in the oceans must have been carried up and was circulating around in the air, enough to form a layer of ice from 1 to 3 miles thick, and yet none fell in northern Asia and northwest Canada. And this is from Ignatius Donnelly's book Ragnarok. Such a vast accumulation of ice as Geikie required to enunciate his theory could only have been assembled if the temperature of the earth were lowered to hundreds of degrees below zero at the poles. In these circumstances, 35 to 40 degrees would have been considerably below normal. The equator would perhaps have fallen below freezing point, and a great number of subtropic and tropical animals and plants would have perished. Yet, the geologists allow intermittent periods of ice ages and subtropical, as drift deposits are discovered in Brazil and Western Africa, in the Sahara, according to H.W. Haynes, in the Gulf of Mexico, according to Dr. Witchell, in North America, where it is patchy, not reaching beyond Iowa, in the opinion of most authorities. It can be seen that it nevertheless is discovered in latitudes whence even Geikie's vast ice sheet could not have penetrated unless it reached the equator, although in these places it is only a scarce phenomenon.